only fun. It's Sunrise with Craig Vronick right here on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to kcmxam.com. Join in the conversation by calling 541-772-8255. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.
Good morning, everybody. 6 minutes after the hour. So glad you're with us this morning. The Sunrise Show. It's a Friday. It's about 42 degrees. Going to get to 61 today. We'll see intermittent rain throughout the weekend, but nothing like California's getting. And on the phone with us this morning, candidate for United States Congress, District 3, Dennis Linthicum, currently a commissioner in Klamath County, and on the campaign trail. And Dennis, you're going to be in Medford tonight, right? You were talking about that.
You're right, Craig. We'll be at the Black Bear Diner at 6:30, and this is District 2. The District 2 goes from Jackson County up to Hood River and all the way over to the Idaho-Nevada borders. It's a gigantic district.
Thank you for correcting me. We just had Dave Dotter on. He's District 3 for the Oregon State Senate. District 2 for congressional seat. Absolutely. So, yeah, and while we were waiting for the break to finish, we got a call to come in. Lauren, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Good deal. Well, good morning, and you had a question for Dennis, so go right ahead.
Yeah, so I've heard you discuss on previous programs about how you don't believe in federal grants. So I was just wondering why last year you voted to allow Klamath County to use a $5,000 federal grant to pay a local county trapper.
A local county what?
Trapper.
Trapper.
Yeah.
Actually,
we didn't use it grant money. We in essence, counties are funded from the federal government. Lauren, thanks for your question. And there are so many funding streams that come from the federal government. This is how the federal government purchases allegiance. They purchase allegiance at every turn. And as a county commissioner, it would be, I would violate my fiduciary responsibility to the county to throw all of that money in the trash can. That money's actually getting printed daily and gets distributed in that fashion. So what we used to pay the trapper, Klamath County we've been trying to wean the trapper, which is a USDA position that the USDA has put on the backs of our county. So our county taxpayers are now stuck with the bill, and county taxpayers are now paying the federal benefits and wages and salary and buying the vehicle, et cetera, for the federal agent who is a USDA employee. We use $30,000 from the general fund, which is taxpayer dollars, and we use $35,000, I believe, from economic development funds, because economic development funds can appropriately be used for saving jobs or creating jobs, and this was saving the job of the USDA animal control agent. Here's what's my complaint with this, Lauren, is, and it sounds like you agree with me entirely, that you agree the federal government has trillion-dollar deficits and they need to turn off the spigot. If we turn off the spigot at the federal level, it won't be flooding into local economies where people will attempt to use it. The conversation that was just had with Dave's daughter with regard to Cover Oregon is a classic example. Can you imagine $500 million sitting on the table because it came straight from President Obama, straight to Kitzhaber, and Kitzhaber says, this will balance our budget, all in favor of balancing Oregon's budget. And look at the legislatures didn't have to balance the budget by cutting jobs or cutting spending. All they had to open up was the little lockbox that was sitting on the table. This is a tragedy in the making.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of managing the money and are we getting the biggest bang for our buck? And it just seems like the spending, they're just having so much fun with the spending. Well, Lauren, thanks for your call. I appreciate your comments on that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Dennis...
Craig, what's really interesting about this is let's take something simple that everybody can get. Let's say we have a uber conservative and an uber liberal living right next to each other. And the conservative says, just in that, we're going to set a little mind game here. The conservative says, I don't like using tax dollars. I don't like taking subsidies. I'm just going to work hard in my field and hoe my garden and create my produce and sell it at the local store. The liberal who likes big government and likes government spending and likes the printing press rolling in Washington says, hey, I'm going to take advantage of that subsidy for a solar array. I'm going to use that grant to purchase a tractor, and I'm going to turn my farm into a super productive, beautiful and green, and all of these labels come with it. Now, what we've done is we've successfully sponsored, if the conservative continually says, I will not get involved in that sort of activity, what we will do is crush him, and the individual who doesn't mind taking the money, becomes wealthy at the taxpayer's expense. In other words, that all those conservative taxpayers in the neighborhood fund the enterprise that is going on on this one piece of land. You can see that this is the federal government choosing winners and losers, and what they're really doing is they're choosing those individuals who agree with them, and they're punishing those individuals who disagree with them. This is the kind of corrupt policy that we should be striving to end. This is waste and fraud and cronyism at the highest levels of government, and this needs to stop.
Well, exactly, and I've often wondered, and everybody just comes to shrug their shoulders when they come up on the word subsidy. The farming subsidy, the subsidies for the airlines. I had no idea that the federal government subsidizes airlines when they come into a certain area so that they can afford to offer service. Now that's a transportation carrier, but the subsidies, and then of course what they pay the farmers subsidies not to plant. They pay farmers subsidies to plant. I mean, the subsidy list just goes on and on and on, and you wonder.
Yeah, it goes on, and tax breaks are included. How about a tax break for a pivot, or how about a tax break for a wheel line, and how about a tax break for a new tractor? How about tax breaks for solar panels? The green energy industry is one of the biggest, and this, statistically, we know that green energy is not efficient, it's not cheap, it's very costly, and yet because we're so in love with this idea that it's been sold to us by the environmental groups who are trying to promote green energy, and green energy is just not a viable source of energy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Except for water, actually, let me add that in. All hydro facilities ought to be labeled green. Even the dams in the Klamath Basin ought to be labeled as renewable energy. They are the greenest of green. They are the cheapest source. Run-of-river is the cheapest source of hydropower. It is a fabulous baseline power that will be there for eternity, because as long as the sun shines, water will evaporate and come down in rain and snow.
Exactly. Hey, Dennis, we've got another call coming in. Let's see if we grab this. Good morning. You're live on the air on the Sunrise Show. Do you have a question for Dennis Linthicum?
Hi, yeah. My name's Rob.
Yeah, Rob.
So, Dennis, well, I keep hearing you rally against the federal influence that keeps, coming around in our state, and I really appreciate your position on that there. But what I don't understand is that, last year when we were going through this big drought, I specifically remember you asking Kids Hopper over there for federal disaster funds that to declare the area, a disaster area to get federal money pumped into Klamath.
Yeah, Yeah, look, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Klamath County. Rob, if you're suggesting that I should have told all of the farmers in our community that based on my principle for disagreeing with federal dollars, that I want to see all of them go bankrupt, I think you are mistaken. What would be a better and more appropriate tactic would be to say, let's stop the federal government from wasting money day after day, incident after incident. If drought relief is important, let's leave that on the table. If drought relief is important, let's preserve that. But there are thousands, billions of dollars of other programs that are wasted. So this is really a pick-the-unish article, and I think it's a disservice to the farmers of Klamath County. This is why I'm running from commissioner and moving up to Congress, because Congress is where the printing presses happen. Your children will get saddled with $17.3 trillion of debt. You try and tell me how they're going to pay me.
Yeah.
They can't pay it back. This is a number that is so big, you have no concept of how big $17 trillion is. It's gigantic.
Yeah. Rob, did that answer your question? I know you had disagreement related to if you...
Well, yeah, I just don't understand how can you expect not to have federal intrusion into the area when you keep asking for federal money to be pumped in.
Well, certainly, Rob, if you agree with me, you stated you agree with me, then how we go about this, how do you build a building one brick at a time? How do you dismantle a building one brick at a time? And so I'm not suggesting that I'm going to go in there with a hatchet and slay everybody in Washington, D.C., but I'm suggesting we need to focus on these principles, focus on the principle of financial responsibility, focus on the principle of waste and fraud, focus on a principle that promotes financial responsibility, engages free markets, expands individual liberty, focus on a principle that promotes greater prosperity and freedom for all people, not just freedom for those bigwigs who enjoy getting the check from Washington, D.C. I think if there's a extreme circumstance, if Hurricane Katrina came through Klamath County, I think it would be appropriate to use money to restore Klamath County, but I do not think it would be appropriate to use that money to build a sports stadium for the Klamath County Ravens. That's where I'm drawing the line. You guys, we have to be responsible. We cannot be irresponsible.
Yeah. All right, Rob. Well, good. I appreciate your call.
You're right.
All right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Dennis, it is the responsibility and tough. And you wonder, like I said, are the leaders being fiscally responsible? And it just seems like, we were talking about this earlier on the program, of, if your neighborhood is making loud racket and playing loud music, man, you're on the phone calling the cops right away. If someone is racing up and down your street, you're calling the cops, say, hey, come get this guy. He's racing through the neighborhood and our children are in danger and everything else. And you go to the city council and they line up, they fill the rooms and they're standing room only. But when it's an upper level politician and their distance is at the state capitol or at the nation's capital, all of a sudden it takes time to write a letter or send an email or make a phone call. Everybody kind of just goes, ho-hum. And it's like, I kind of come back and say, wow, shame on us for allowing them to act that way.
Actually, here's the way out of it. In the federal government, the politicians have aligned themselves with the entrenched interests in those agencies and departments that already exist, and the bureaucrats are bent on expanding their power within those agencies and departments. And political patronage is a very big part of Washington politics. This is why I'm for local governance, because you and I can drive to Salem in a couple of hours. We can't get to Washington for a couple of days by the time you stand in line and have the TSA shake you down. So I think local control is far superior to federal control. I think county governments are even better. It's 30 minutes to the county commissioner's office, And if you don't like the forest management policies in your county, you're only 30 minutes away from talking to the guys who will impact change. Same with Salem, and that's why I'm promoting this policy where the federal government cedes all of their federal lands to state governments, and then state governments, I would like to see parcel that up to private interest, county interest, tribal interest. Any number of folks could manage those lands with more attentiveness than the Washington bureaucrats in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, no, I agree. Local, I think the folks locally did figure that out as well. Dennis, let's take a quick little break. I got to come right back. We've got Dennis Linthicum on the program with us this morning. We've got to take a quick little break. We'll come back. Dennis is running for Congress. You can check out his website, Dennis2014, Dennis2014.com. He's going to be at the Black Bear Diner tonight on Barnett at 6:30, I think. Is that right, Dennis?
That's correct, at 6:30. And there are a lot of people who are concerned about my attempts to extract the claws of the federal government from the local economy. I'd love for them to come. I'd love for them to listen to what we have to say and set their hearts and minds on prosperity that stems from liberty, not prosperity that comes off a printing press.
Exactly. Okay, coming right back. More on the show after this.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. A little bold and extremely fun, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Welcome back. 24 minutes after the hour. We've got Dennis Linthicum on the phone with us this morning. And Dennis, this is a perfect question for you because I'll tell you what, in the media, in the discussions, and it's really not on the national, I mean, it's on the state platform, but this is on the national level. And my question is related to the $17 trillion. And it's hard to even and it was at 16 and some change, and then it hit 17, and there's really isn't any debt ceiling anymore because the Congress has suspended the debt ceiling. And I'm wondering, how do we get out of it? And I'm not hearing any solutions, anybody within any of the national political platform addressing our exit strategy for $17 trillion debt.
Well, actually, there are a ton of folks who are arguing against this, and I'm just one of them. I want to join with Ted Cruz, and I want to join with Katrina Pearson, and I want to join with Justin Amash and Thomas Massey. And I look at people, the kids, I'll call them kids just because I'm 40 years or 50 years, 30 years older than they are, and I don't mean it in a demeaning sense, but the young people that just called haven't really thought deeply about what TARP looks like. That's the Troubled Asset Relief Program that bailed out banks, or what ARA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, looks like, and where the revenue came from to fund those. There's green energy subsidies, there's economic stimulus, there's Federal Reserve printing presses rolling, not only the Obamacare experiment, the Environmental Protection Agency's war on energy, their war on local environments and regulations, the NSA spying on our phone calls and our emails, the Internal Revenue Service espousing and exposing all of those Tea Party groups as radicals because they have freedom or liberty or conservative in the name of their organization. These things will impact the lives of these young people in a catastrophic fashion if they're not dealt with seriously. That's all I'm saying. I'm simply bringing this to light and saying, are you willing to deal with this in a serious fashion? Are you willing to promote liberty instead of government intervention? Are you willing to engage against the established monopolistic and anti-competitive interests? Those monopoly interests are what is funding or asking or chasing or, requesting all of these monies, and they just keep funneling through the system, and it's something that has to get addressed sometime, somewhere, or we will end up in an economic catastrophe. I'm hoping that everyone will wake up and will say, we can't do this.
Well, exactly, Dennis. And here's the thing that, talk about keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple and basic is when you have a bill that, whether it's on the Senate or the House side, brought into law, and you have this quote-unquote pork in the bill, and you do this pork to entice votes for, monies that go into their own districts. And it's just kind of nuts. Millions and millions of dollars, and it loses focus, and it's put in there behind the scenes as pork. And you've got to see that the intent is not correct. I mean, the intent is...
Right. The intent, you're right. I think that's a great word. The intent here now becomes very questionable. If it's not outright fraud, corruption, cronyism, it's certainly waste.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we got a quick call, and we're running out of time, but let's see if we can't grab this. Good morning. You're live in the air with Dennis Linthicum. Do you have a question? We have about a minute left.
Okay, just a quick answer, Craig. This is Dwayne.
Yes, sir.
Tax reform fit into all this, which has cropped up just recently.
Yeah, tax reform. Dennis, what do you think about that? Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for the call.
Tax reform has to be implemented. Right now, remember the Stamp Act way back in the beginning was 3% tax on paper. And think of what your taxes look like today. What I'm suggesting is if we close off the spigot, right now we're filling a bucket, but it's a leaky bucket. There are so many holes in it, the water quickly drains out. What I'm suggesting is we start patching all those holes, turn off all those spigots, shut down all of those resources that are draining water out of the bucket. Then we won't need to put so much water into the bucket. So if we gain financial responsibility and back off from the pork, the waste, and the fraud, then we can actually stop sucking so much money out of the local economy and out of your wallet.
Oh, my gosh, that's crazy. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. You're going to be at the Black Bear Diner tonight at 6:30 in Medford. How about that? Congratulations, and thanks for your time this morning. We're out of time. We got to go to break. But you can go to his website, dennis2014.com. Thank you, sir. Have a super day.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Okay. All right here on KCMX. Back in a moment. Coming up, news and weather right now.